Hi, we are going to finish up with surface area of cylinders today. We are going to use the same required form that we have this entire unit, where you will find each individual side of your shape and then add those areas up at the end. So we've looked at rectangular prisms, which were comprised of 6 rectangles. We looked at triangular prisms, which had 2 triangles and 3 rectangles. Now we're going to look at cylinders. The easiest way to look at this is look at a cylinder as a net. So if you take a look here, here is my regular cylinder. It has 2 circular bases, and then it is made up of actually a rectangle in the middle. So if you can kind of imagining like a soup can, that label that goes around the soup can is a rectangle, and then it would have the 2 sides, the 2 lids. So a cylinder is made up of 2 congruent circles and a rectangle. Well, we know how to find the area of a circle. It would be pi r squared. And we know how to find the area of a rectangle. It's length times width. So what we need to find in order to make the surface area is we need to know the radius, we need to know the length and the width of your rectangle. The radius is going to be the radius of your cylinder. So when you look at that, okay, that's just the normal radius. You can also see it as the in the net form, your radius will be the same on each one. Let's talk about the width. The width of your rectangle, which is this part right here. The width of your rectangle is actually the height of your cylinder. So we said the radius is just the radius, nothing tricky there, but the width of your rectangle is actually the height of your cylinder. You can see that right there. Now let's talk about the length. The length is this side right here. Well, guys, this is the tricky part. The length of your rectangle is going to go around your circle exactly 1 time. Because if you think about a label, it goes around that circular base exactly 1 time. Let's think, what goes around a circle exactly 1 time? What is that called? That's called the circumference. So the length is actually the circumference. And how do we find circumference? Well, that would be 2 pi r. Well, we already are going to know our radius from up here. So what we actually need to know to find the surface area of a cylinder is the radius and the height. That's actually the only 2 items that we need to know. Let's try one out. All right, so I have my circle. I'm going to do my formula, which is pi r squared. And since I have 2 circles, I'm going to multiply that by 2. And just for sake of saving time, we're going to use pi equals 3 today on all of our examples. So I'm going to do 2 times 3 times my radius squared. So we would actually plug that into our calculators and multiply that all out to find out the area of our circles. And I end up with 216. Now let's look at our rectangle. Remember, for a rectangle, it's length times width. But like we just got talking about, the length is actually the circumference, which is 2 pi r, and your width is actually the height. So I'm going to multiply 2 times pi times my radius, which is 6, times my height, which is 5. So let's multiply that all out together, and I get 180. And then lastly, just like before, we would add those 2 things together, and I end up with 396 kilometers squared. All right, let's try another one. Our 2 circles, which would be pi r squared, and I've got 2 circles, so I'm going to multiply it by 2. So 2 times 3, and what's your radius here? Your radius is going to be 5, half of your diameter, times 5 squared. All right, let's multiply that all out, and I end up with 150. Now let's do our rectangle, length times width. Remember your length, 2 pi r, that's your circumference, and your width is your height. So we're going to do 2 times 3 times your radius, which is 5, times the height of your cylinder, which in this case is 12. Remember, guys, that your height is not necessarily how tall your rectangle is. It's the distance between your two bases. So when I multiply all that out, I end up with 360. And the last thing is to add those together, so I end up with 510 yards squared. Let's do one more. So we've got our circle, pi r squared. I've got 2 of them, so we multiply by 2. So 2 times 3 times 2 squared. All right, so that would be, let's see here, that's 4, 12, 24. And then my length times my width. Your length of your rectangle is your circumference, which is 2 pi r. And your width of that is actually the height. So 2 times 3 times 2, your radius, times 10, which is your height. So let's see here. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12, and 12 times 10 is 120. So then we just need to add 120 plus 24. I end up with 144 inches squared. So I hope that makes it simple and how you find the surface area of a cylinder. Good luck.